One lap. That's all it took to flip the script at Indianapolis. Carson Hocevar just put his name at the front of one of NASCAR's crown jewel races, and in the same session, some of the biggest names in the sport got buried so deep in the field, they might spend Sunday just trying to survive traffic. Qualifying doesn't hand out trophies, but at a track where passing is brutal and track position is everything. What happened Saturday at Indianapolis Motor Speedway might have already decided who has a real shot at the Brickyard 400 and who's fighting an uphill battle before the green flag even drops. Let's break down the winners, the losers, and what it actually means for Sunday. Carson Hocevar, driving for Spire Motorsports, laid down the fastest lap of the session and captured the pole for Sunday's Brickyard 400. Right behind him, teammate Daniel Suárez qualified second, meaning Spire Motorsports locks out the entire front row at Indianapolis. Corey Heim, filling in for a Cup Series start, qualified seventh, a strong result for a driver usually racing in NASCAR's lower divisions. On the flip side, Chase Elliott will start 27th. Bubba Wallace will start even further back at 29th. Both face a long day of traffic at a track notorious for punishing anyone who isn't up front. Indianapolis is not a track where you casually pass your way to the front. The corners are flat, the racing surface is narrow, and clean air is basically gold. Historically, this is one of the hardest ovals on the entire circuit to move forward on race day. That's exactly why this qualifying session matters so much more than a typical week. For Spire Motorsports, this is a franchise-defining moment. This isn't a powerhouse organization with the resources of Hendrick or Joe Gibbs Racing. This is a team that has spent years fighting for relevance in a sport dominated by a handful of super teams. And now, at Indianapolis of all places, they're starting 1-2. For Chase Elliott, one of the most popular drivers in the entire sport, a 27th place starting spot is a gut punch. Elliott has built a reputation as a closer, someone who finds speed late in a run. But Indianapolis doesn't always reward that. If you can't pass, talent alone won't save you. And for Bubba Wallace, this qualifying result adds pressure to a season where every result gets magnified. Starting 29th at one of NASCAR's marquee events is not the position any driver wants heading into a nationally televised Sunday afternoon. Let's talk about why this Spire front row is such a massive deal. Starting up front at Indianapolis isn't just a nice storyline, it's a legitimate competitive advantage. Controlling turn one means controlling the tone of the entire race. Hocevar gets first crack at setting the pace, picking his lane and staying out of the wrecks that so often unfold behind the leaders on a track this tight. For the finals, this might be the biggest opportunity of his Cup Series career. He's shown speed and flashes all season, but flashes don't win races. A clean track, a front row start, and a teammate right beside him to work with strategically, that's the kind of setup that turns a what if into a signature win. Now, the harder question, is Spire's speed here real, or is this a qualifying outlier? That's the risk. Qualifying trim and race trim are two completely different animals. A car built to be fast for 2 laps on new tires doesn't always hold up over a 400-mile fuel run with a full field of contenders around it. Spire will need to prove their pace translates once tires wear and strategy comes into play. On the other side, Elliott and Wallace are staring down a much tougher mental and strategic challenge. At most tracks, a poor qualifying run gets erased by lap 50. At Indianapolis, it can define your entire day. Both drivers will be forced to lean heavily on pit strategy, stretching fuel, gambling on tire calls, hoping cautions fall in their favor to gain track position without actually having to pass their way through traffic. Is that smart? It can work, but it's also risky. One mistimed pit call, one caution at the wrong moment, and an entire race can be lost before the final stage even begins. Expect two very different moods across the NASCAR world Sunday. Spire Motorsports fans, and honestly a lot of neutral NASCAR fans, are going to be thrilled. An underdog team locking out the front row at Indianapolis is exactly the kind of story this sport thrives on. Analysts will be asking whether Spire just legitimately arrived as a contender. Meanwhile, Hendrick Motorsports and 23XI racing fans are going to be nervous. Elliott and Wallace are two of the most recognizable names in the sport, and a rough qualifying result at a crown jewel race is going to dominate conversation heading into Sunday. Expect plenty of debate over strategy calls, setup choices, and whether either team simply got it wrong on Saturday. Best case scenario, Hocevar or Suarez turns pole position into a statement victory, giving Spire Motorsports one of the biggest wins in franchise history and proving they belong in the championship conversation. Worst case scenario, the front row speed doesn't hold up in race trim, Spire fades in the middle stages, and it's Elliott or Wallace who claws all the way from the back to steal the spotlight with a dramatic late race charge. Either way, Sunday at Indianapolis has the makings of one of the more unpredictable Brickyard 400s in recent memory. So here's the real question. Is Spire Motorsports about to prove they're a genuine championship threat, or is this front row nothing more than a one-day fluke at a track built for chaos? And can Chase Elliott or Bubba Wallace actually fight their way from the back of the pack at a track where passing is nearly impossible? Drop your prediction in the comments before the green flag drops. Who wins the Brickyard 400, and who's the biggest disappointment when the checkered flag falls? If you're locked in for Sunday's race, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the breakdown right after the checkered flag.